running an off-meta offense in Madden is fun, but typically you are going to be at a huge disadvantage if you don't do it correctly. This is us going to be talking about how to do it. I've built many offenses over the years of playing Madden for the past 5 or 6 years. I built many off-meta offenses. I built many off-meta offenses that became the meta because they were extremely high level. And we're going to talk about my kind of process of doing this. This entire Twitter thread. If you don't follow me on Twitter, you should go follow me over on Twitter. It's linked in the description. We have a lot of good stuff over there. But let's just get right into it, right? And this is very, very important. This is number one of the bigger points that we could possibly have is your formation must be able to block whatever the meta blitz is or whatever the meta defense is. Whatever that defense is, the meta on defense always generates pressure of some sort. It almost always does. Your offense has to be able to block it. I don't care if you can run the ball well versus it. If you cannot block the defense while passing the ball, you are going to lose games because of it. Typically, what this is going to do, particularly our options to block, ideally, you want the ability to max protect. What max protection is going to be is basically you have 5 possible receivers on any play, and then on every play you have a minimum of 5 blockers. You're going to take 2 of our receivers and block them, right? So we're going to have, think about trips tight end, okay? You have the ability to block your halfback and your tight end. That'd be max protection. Usually you want the ability to be able to block at least a halfback or at least a tight end, and ideally both of them on any given play. Motion blocking is another tool in our toolbox to be able to block a lot of these blitzes. I don't love relying on it, but it's a nice thing to mix in sometimes, I think. And then additionally, having the ability to switch between standard drop back pass blocking, which would be a play like gun bunch verticals, right, where you just have, it's not play action, and then a play action play like PA counter go, PA boot over, where they're faking that handoff. The pass blocking up front is different between those two things, and depending on the year, depending on what the meta defense is that you're going against, it can be better or worse. So having some options available to you, especially those right there, are going to be huge. If you cannot block the meta defense, you're screwed. You are screwed. It's one of the biggest reasons why 5 wide and gun spread are almost never long-term high-level metas, because there's a meta defense that comes out that screams at it and they can't block it. And the fact of the matter is, no matter how good you are at the game, you might be able to go an entire game where you let this blitz come in and you play perfect passing over top of it. But the fact of the matter is, if you play an entire head-to-head season, if you play an entire weekend league, and more especially if you play in a tournament, you're not going to play perfect every single game. You won't. I've learned that the hard way. It's a big reason why I lost a tournament run I had a few years ago in the final 16. And I've seen the best Madden players in the world, the best passers, also lose the same way. Their strategy against a meta blitz was that they were going to let it come in and pass over it, and eventually they have a bad game. It's going to happen. You need to have the ability to block. Jeez. Or your offense is going to struggle at some point. This is a huge number one thing for me, okay? Number 2, this is a big deal. Routes. This especially applies early in the year, but your formation needs high-level, what I call unique routes. These routes cannot be hot routed, right? So think about big hitting routes like short posts, okay? Crossers, deep corners, and some complementary routes like wheels and snags. No unique routes in a singular formation is not good. Basically, obviously, as the year goes on, you can start getting more and more hot routes, but early on in the year, you can't really hot route much. So things like short posts, deep crossers, deep corner routes, wheels, snag routes, which are, if you don't know what a snag is, it's like one of those in-breaking curl routes, basically. These routes, you need them stock in your formation. You'll see all of the high-level meta formations always have high-level unique routes. Let's take a look at some of these pictures I've attached, right? This is gun tight. Really good high-level unique route, this kind of deep corner right here. And if we think about from gun tight offset tight end, the super deep corner that came from this guy in PA shot seams, right, from the wide receiver. Let's go over one. This is gun bunch halfback strong, actually, but same idea from gun bunch. This is a wheel route from the tight end. You can't hot route that, and this is a very high, this route is thrown a ton, and it beats a lot of coverages. It's super good, right? And actually, the same thing goes for this B route and RB on this play. That's why verticals is such a high-level play call every year, because we have all 3 of these wide receivers have a unique route, and then especially when sometimes this play will have this running back on a speed in or a speed out that's stock. Really good. Let's go over again. This is PA counter go. From trips, or this is actually, basically from trips tight end. And this is the stock crosser from our B wide receiver right here. Another unique route. If your formation does not have unique routes, especially, you really want a couple of them. You don't need all of them all in one formation, right? But you need a couple of them. you're gonna struggle. You're just not using the best formation that you can. Then you're kind of putting yourself at a huge disadvantage, right? Think about PA or gun bunch tight end, the deep crosser in PA boot over, the deep post in PA boot over, the play triple out if you know that, the really deep corner in that. All really, really important plays that without them, bunch tight end would not be nearly as good, right? It just wouldn't be. Let's go on to our next thing. This is a really big concept that I think a lot of people underestimate how important this is because they try to be too cute. And this is really the fact of the matter of Madden. You need a power play. This is something pretty much every scheme of mine has. Usually you'll want 1 to 3 of these, depending on how good they are. Basically, what this is a play that pretty much whenever you want, you can call it, and you will pick up 5 to 10 yards. It's your bread and butter money play, for lack of a better word. Think about gun bunch verticals, gun tight PA slot corner, bunch tight end PA boot over. All of these plays, regardless of what the defense is, I can call them, and I'm going to be able to pick up at least 5 yards pretty much every single time. I think PA slot corner is like the worst of these, but nonetheless, this is a play that regardless of the coverage, you can go to and you can pick it up, right? 4th and 3, what's your play call? You are going to say, I don't give a what their coverage is. I am calling this play, and I will be able to get a route open, and I can make the read. You need really, I have like, I would say, depending on how good it is, like from bunch tight end, really it's like 1 where I have PA boot over. From trips tight end, I'd say I have like 2. And kind of change, but you need a play that's going to work against almost everything. If you don't have a play that, because the reason for this is that it eliminates a lot of the thinking pre-snap for you in high-pressure situations where a lot of people mess up, and then it just becomes a muscle memory type thing. If you've ever played a sport, you know a lot of times coaches will preach, and this is, I think, a very, very real thing, of that you don't want to be spending all your time thinking. You want to basically have things kind of ingrained in muscle memory where you're just reacting, you're just going, you're just doing, right? You're analyzing and doing instead of sitting there thinking, oh, should I? And that's what this power play is. High pressure moments, high leverage situations, you're able to go to this. And not only that, but in the course of a long season, of a tournament, of a weekend league, you can kind of call this play a good amount and not have to be locked in always. Muscle memory is going to get you making the right reads constantly. That's why if you watch my videos and my gameplays, you'll see a lot. I'm not locked in the majority of them. I'm talking to you guys, BSing about something stupid, and I'm able to make the reads because I'm running very high-level power plays, and I just have a muscle memory where I can just identify everything without really thinking a ton because it's just muscle memory, mental memory, whatever it is, right? It's very important having this power play. Very important. Let's go to number 4. Get reps. This is super important. It sounds very obvious, but I've seen the best players in the world switch between the best offensive schemes, right? Gun bunch, and trips tight end, both seen as some of the best offenses in the world, right? I have seen the best trips tight end players go to gun bunch for a game and look terrible. That you would think that gun bunch sucked. And the fact of the matter is, you need reps in whatever offensive scheme you go to. If you go into a scheme and you're 1 game in, or game number 2, you get bagged, and you're like, well, this scheme sucks. Not necessarily. You just don't have the reps and you don't know everything. Now, the scheme might suck. It might suck, especially if it doesn't fit these other things. Scheme might suck. But you need repetition because it helps build that muscle memory, helps build you identifying things, learning the timing of different routes, etc., etc. Pretty big believer in that as well, of course. Let's go down here to number 5. This is just a big one, man. It has to make sense. Too many people try to be off meta and then use a formation that makes no sense. The formation you are using needs to give you some sort of quantifiable advantage over other offenses. Maybe this is a 1-play touchdown. Maybe this is a really good run against the meta. It just needs something so you're not just some idiot running off meta just to run off meta. If your formation does not give you some sort of advantage that can't be found elsewhere, you're wasting your time and you're going to lose games because of it. I just see people doing stupid stuff sometimes where they're running formations that dude, what are we doing? Especially a good example of this is gun bunch halfback strong. Overwhelmingly, the most part is dude, just run gun bunch. What are we doing? Just run gun bunch. There's a bunch of different examples of this, but a lot of under center offenses, you'll see people go under center and try to pass every play. It's dude, what are we doing? Just run the normal stuff, right? Now, there are times, I can give you a really good example of, in Madden 20, a slot offset, which you guys see me run. I'm running right now in Madden 23, but really in Madden 20 was where this was big. And if you watch my club games, you would have seen this, is it beat the meta blitz, by far the meta blitz, because it weak boxed it. It was one of the only formations that would weak box it for a 1-play touchdown every single time. Literally every single time was a 1-play touchdown. And so that was a huge quantifiable advantage that I had with that formation that I wouldn't have had with trips tight end. So you can find things, and sometimes obviously you might be running off meta just for fun, right? But and you know, the formation might limit you in other ways, but try to find some way that has some advantage, right? So you're not just super putting yourself at a disadvantage. Have something you can hang your hat on and say, okay, this is doing this for me at least, right? And be critical about it. Don't bullshit yourself, right? Don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to me, right? Next thing, this is a big thing, lab. You need to spend time on practice mode. You need to lab one-point touchdowns. You need to lab your power plays. You need to lab everything. I spent a lot of time in practice mode learning how to do everything. You need to really, every formation, every route in the formation that's stock, I would really run it a few times in practice mode to see. Sometimes these stock routes that look very basic in the play art run weird or run kind of unique on the field for whatever reason. Maybe it's spacing, maybe the route's just coded a little differently, whatever it is. And I would really recommend you to spend time learning how to do everything in practice mode. If you don't spend at least like an hour in practice mode with a new scheme, I mean, you're not, like, again, you're not trying your best. You're not doing everything you can to succeed with it. You're not. It's just a fact of the matter, right? Especially when you're labbing your own scheme. I recommend it for anyone using my ebooks to spend a little bit of time in practice mode just so you get the idea of how the routes look, the timing of some routes, et cetera, et cetera. Because when you just go, when you're raw dogging it in a game, you don't know how fast this slant cuts across the field, how soon it hits the sideline. If it hits the sideline, it runs out. If it bounces up, all these other things, right? So, little guide to how to run off meta offense. If you guys want to not have to do all of this stuff, the really easy thing is to go to civil.gg, become a member, $14.99. Use code premium for 25% off. Get access to all of my ebooks, all of our community. We have some great things going on over there. If you want to get better at Madden 23, we have all of the entire year available that we've done the past 12 months. And Madden 24, I mean, we're going to be top dog once again over here. All right, boys. So, want to see you in here. I appreciate all y'all, and I'll see you all in the next video.